I'm a 22-year-old self-taught brand designer, and I get a lot of questions about how exactly I got to where I am today. So I wanted to talk you guys through the steps in my career up until this point and maybe give some advice for those of you who are trying to be self-taught brand designers. So out of high school, I wanted to be a photographer, actually. College wasn't really on my radar. I decided to take a gap year to try and figure out what I wanted to do and see if I could make photography happen or if I found something else that I could do without a college degree, because financially it wasn't really a possibility for me. While I was pursuing photography, I was working at a coffee shop, and while I was working there, I started to explore Adobe programs. So something about using these programs was really enjoyable for me. So one of my best friends at the time, who is now my husband, he told me that I should really look into graphic design since I love working in these programs so much. And the coffee shop ended up having a few projects that I could work on. So eventually I realized that I wanted to pursue this as a career. So I started applying to some different jobs, never really hearing back from any of them, obviously, because I had pretty much zero experience. And there was one job that was at an aquarium and they needed a marketing specialist. So I applied for it because it seemed in the same realm as graphic design. I reached out to them and let them know that I was really interested. They'd actually moved on and didn't select me for interviews, but because I had reached out and shown how interested I was, they actually wanted to see me for an interview at this point. And so I did an interview over the phone and it went well, and I ended up actually getting that job. So since they knew that I really was focused on graphic design, that role turned into a pretty strictly graphic design role. So by getting this job, I was able to grow a lot and get a lot of experience in an actual job, which is honestly pretty scary since I didn't know what I was doing most of the time. So there was a lot of trial and error, and looking back, I made a lot of bad designs. So I stayed with this company for several years. As I was in this role, I was working at the coffee shop as well, and then eventually as a receptionist as well. So it was a part-time job. So through some mutual connections, I actually ended up getting a contracted position with a hotel and restaurant management corporation. So this felt like a really big deal to me because they had some really prominent and popular hotels and restaurants that I was making designs for. And they're all across the country, and it felt like a really great thing to have in my portfolio. So I was working as a receptionist for quite a while, as well as doing the aquarium, and then eventually the hotel and restaurant corporation as well. So while I was working at these jobs, I actually decided to take a few college courses to learn more about design and work my way to get a graphic design certificate. So I took a few courses at the community college near me. I ended up only taking a handful, and I didn't complete the certificate program because my business ended up taking off. But I highly recommend taking those courses if you aren't able to invest in a full degree, but you still want some kind of education and something to jump off of. So during this time, I also found brief accounts on Instagram, which are accounts that post briefs for branding. And you can take those briefs and use it as if it's a real client. So I was spending a lot of time looking at other designers and going to little seminars and figuring out how I can make this a business, because I knew that I would love to work for myself and have a brand design business. So early 2022 is when I started being a lot more consistent on social media. So I was posting on Instagram for a while, lots of designs with only really my family and friends following me. Eventually, I started posting on TikTok, and before too long, my TikTok got a bit of attention, and that ended up bringing in a lot of clients, and I got a few viral videos, and it just took off really quick. And from there, I started posting a lot more on Instagram and grew my audience there a lot more. So also during this time, through word of mouth, I ended up being contracted with another designer who had a business, and he was looking for designers to work underneath him to take some of the extra work. And there are a few other people that I ended up contracting with. I actually ended up contracting with the coffee shop I originally worked at for a little bit. But eventually, through my social media primarily, I was able to grow my business quite a bit, and I was able to turn it into a full-time thing. So that's pretty much the story of how I got to where I am, where I am running my freelance design business, and I am able to focus all my attention on that and make a steady income off of it, which I'm so thankful for. I do believe that you can do the same just by educating yourself and really being dedicated. Here are the most important things I'm going to tell you. Number one, always be researching and educating yourself because you're not getting that formal education. So you're going to have to teach yourself, and just always have that passion for learning new things no matter where you're at. And number two is that practice is like the most important thing to getting better. So getting any kind of experience and practice is what's going to improve your skills and make you a better designer. So you're going to have to do that very consistently. The next thing I'm going to say is do those briefs from the brief accounts on Instagram. I'll put a few on the screen that I love right here. Those get you a lot of experience and are great for your portfolio. Going off of that, number four, I would say that you need to have a portfolio. You need to have something to be able to show them that you know what you're doing and you can do good work. So that's the full story of how I got to where I am today. I hope that you find it valuable in some way. And if you have any questions about becoming a self-taught brand designer, please let me know and I would be happy to help. So I will see you next time.